Dear guests, ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, it is always a great joy and a pleasure for me as the permanent representative and ambassador of Hungary to welcome the Institute for Culture Diplomacy from Berlin. And I see it is getting a tradition that we are meeting here in the UN. We start the year together. And of course, I'm very happy that distinguished professors are joining us and young students are joining us. I think it's very important to start the year with the topic we are going to tackle today. And we Hungarians especially have got an interesting story to tell you. Actually, I put it on my Twitter already, because in 1568, on that very day, the 13th of January, we call it the Patent of Torda, which was then in the Kingdom of Hungary, decided to adopt the very first bill on religious freedom. And so when we were starting to organize this meeting, it was not very much in my mind that that's the same day of the Patent of Torda, which is a very historic moment in the history, not only in Hungary, in Europe, but in the world globally. But I think the guardian angel just sort of shaked everything together. So here we are talking about an issue which has been an issue for many, many, many decades, centuries, more 1,000 years. We, as the representatives of Hungary with my colleague, we are always very happy to welcome you. I propose this topic because and here I would like, first of all, to welcome the Undersecretary General, Her Excellency Kristina Galach, who is responsible for this topic in the United Nations and for information, public information, communication, and the very topics which you can't put into the field of peacekeeping or peace building, but actually the topics which are everywhere. We have just started our work in the United Nations this week in the Security Council with an open debate about the importance of preventive diplomacy. And I very much see that the role of intercultural and interreligious dialogue is part of the preventive diplomacy. And our new Secretary General made it very clear to all of us that this is what he would like to proclaim to all of us, that let's build a year of peace, but at least let's work all of us towards peace this year. And in this peace-making process, in the preventive diplomacy, in conflict resolution, conflict solution, we cannot shy away of the importance of interreligious or intercultural dialogue. I am very happy to welcome the distinguished panelists this morning. I introduce the Undersecretary General, Madame Kristina Galach. We have got the Chief of the Cabinet and the spokesperson for the High Representative of the United Nations Alliance of Civilization, Ms. Nihal Saad. Thank you very much for coming. As you know, this is a very important part of the United Nations, which has been dedicating all the effort, energy, and knowledge, and network, and understanding, and liaising with the member states and with the governments towards creating a harmony within and in a world of different civilizations. I'm very happy to welcome the representative of the Holy See, Monsignor Thomas Grisha. Hungary has been working very strongly together with the Holy See since we have been representing our country here. We have got very strong joint projects. We are very strongly talking about the importance of the protection of religious minorities wherever in the world, in the war-tormented areas, but also everywhere else. So I'm very happy that the Father joined on panel. Another good friend is here at our table, the Secretary General of the American Muslim Congress, the Honorable Aga H. Jeffrey. Thank you very much. You are coming, sir, home whenever you are here. We have been, of course, talking about these issues in different circles with different people. Just the last time we were talking about these issues with religious leaders of the world, and we are expecting the Honorable Rabbi Abadi, who is the chief rabbi from the Safra Synagogue. Hopefully he will arrive as well. And I'm very honored that my dear friend, permanent representative ambassador of Vietnam, has joined us. As you know, this panel is especially shaped for the Institute for Culture Diplomacy and the academic world, but there is a group of ambassadors who have been very supportive towards culture and sustainable development, like Vietnam. And on these very topics, what we are talking about today, we have worked very closely together. So, Excellency, thank you very much for joining us. I know that you were in Washington yesterday, and I know there will be other people arriving, but I think we should start our special day. I'm very happy, of course, that my dear friend Mark Donfried is here again in New York. I know that you already had some good days here in the States, and I have the honor to be on the International Advisory Board of the Institute for Culture Diplomacy, and also the president of the Culture Diplomacy and the Arts Program, which I'm trying to demonstrate here in the UN as well, especially in collaboration with Madame Gayak. Probably, Mark, you would say just a few welcome thoughts, and then we would like to ask the Madame Undersecretary General to start our day. Yeah.
So first of all, I'd like to ask us all to express our sincere gratitude to Ambassador Bogyay and the mission of Hungary for hosting us today. We're really honored to be here. The ambassador is not only an amazing example of a practitioner of cultural diplomacy, I think your entire life, but also someone who really has had a lot of opportunities to reflect also sincerely on not only the past of cultural diplomacy, but the future of cultural diplomacy. So it's an amazing opportunity to have her here with you, with the students, the participants will really benefit, I'm sure, from your insights today, as well as also your generosity, having hosted us at the United Nations and later on in the residence. So we're really happy to be here and be under your leadership, so to speak. And just a few words as to why the topic of today's discussion, I think, is very important also to the Institute for Cultural Diplomacy and broader the field of cultural diplomacy. In particular, the first part of the topic, as we see here the role of interreligious and intercultural dialogue in peace and security. Intercultural dialogue, I think we all agree, of course, that has to be a part of it. Interreligious dialogue is not so clear. If you look at the past of cultural diplomacy in much of the 20th century, religion was almost always absent. In the sense, the idea was religion, be careful, that's divisive. People disagree on that, we'll have problems. That can cause conflicts, wars, etc. Talk about jazz, talk about the arts, talk about literature. Don't talk about religion. And actually, religion, as well as human rights, very often was intentionally left out of the cultural diplomacy discussions. The idea being we have to focus on common ground. We have to talk about easy things, nice things. Let's win the hearts and minds of foreign audiences. Let's attract, let's persuade. And very often it was thought the best way to do that is through an art exhibition, through a piece of music, through a movie. And I think in many ways that's true. I think there are many very powerful aspects of expressions of art to bring people together. However, at the Institute, we really feel that current cultural diplomacy and modern cultural diplomacy should not be about persuasion or attraction, but should be about fostering understanding and building trust. We don't have to agree. We don't have to like each other. It's nice if we do. We don't have to be convinced nation branding-wise this country is amazing and I have to go there and be a tourist. But we do need that basis of trust. And that's why I think it's essential, the first part of the topic for this panel discussion, the interreligious dialogue, interfaith dialogue. At a time in the world, as you look at different countries in the globalized world today, you're having debates where some states, some cities, some countries, some regions feel religion is not something that should be part of school. For example, we should not teach religion. That's not a part of school. A school has to be secular. Teach philosophy, teach ethics. Don't teach religion. And there's actually many groups of individuals who feel it's actually a disservice to students and to children to expose them to actually the major religions of the world, which for me seems insane. How are we going to function in today's environment without at least having basic knowledge about the main religious, groups that are there. Again, the idea is not to persuade or attract or convert everyone, but we definitely need that exposure. So I think from an educational point of view, it's really important that we have these discussions, and I would argue at every level, kindergarten, high school, university, and no limits. So educational-wise, very important. Secondly, in terms of being very pragmatic, if our goal really is peace, and if our goal really is sustainable solutions, to work with civil society in its fullest sense, to actually achieve results, think of how limiting we are, or how we're limiting ourselves if we only deal with politicians and we only deal with the political leaders. How are we going to really have a sustainable solution? I think there, if we can work with moderate religious leaders from all of the faiths, of course, that's a big power as well. As we all know, there's many more moderates in Islam and Judaism and Christianity and any of the major faiths, many more moderates than there are extremists. Let's work with those moderates. Let's bring them together, and it'll be much easier. They'll be able to speak to certain groups in much more powerful ways than a politician or an academic. So I think that's the second aspect of today's panel that I think is really important, really very practically, very pragmatically. How can we also work more effectively with faith groups and religious groups around the world? And that would be, I think, an ideal discussion if we want to come to peace and stability, to have at the table a table similar to this, where we have representatives of diplomacy, representatives of religion, representatives of civil society. That seems to be a much more effective team to really deliver the results that we want, and not to put all of the burden and the expectations and the criticisms on the governments or the governmental institutions. So I'll stop there, but I think it's a crucially important topic, also for the field of culture diplomacy as it evolves. So I'm really grateful again to the leadership of Ambassador Bogyay for having us all here today, hosted at the UN, and I very much look forward with both ears wide open to listening and to learning from the discussion and the debates that will come. So thank you again to Ambassador Bogyay.
Thank you very much, and I'm really very happy that in the Institute for Cultural Diplomacy in Berlin, we've been talking about these issues. We've been meeting religious leaders from all over the world whenever you are organizing meetings there. So it has been a topic for all of us for a very long time.